Today we're going to pull back the curtain on some really unsettling stories. The kind that linger just beneath the surface of our world, from the music we listen to the shows we watch on TV.
All right, so let's just jump right in. We're constantly shown this super polished version of reality, right? But every now and then, something much, much darker breaks through all that noise. And today, we're going to look at 3 of those moments, times when the performance completely shattered and turned into something terrifyingly real.
First, we're diving into the pretty shocking story of a band that took its dark image way too far. I mean, we're talking a horrifying spiral into obsession, betrayal, and actual murder.
Then, we're going to pivot to the world of pop music. Get this. There are some explosive accusations flying around from one massive superstar to another, alleging that there's a secret cult running things at the very top of the industry. Wild, right?
And to wrap things up, we're going ghost hunting. Well, digital ghost hunting, anyway. We'll uncover this really strange, unresolved mystery that haunted a kids' TV channel for years, leaving an entire generation of viewers with this one unforgettable, chilling image.
Okay, so for our first story, we're headed to Norway, back in the early 90s. We're diving deep into the super controversial, super aggressive world of black metal.
So if you're not familiar with it, black metal wasn't just some music genre. For the really extreme followers, it was basically a dark ideology. And right at the dark, pulsating heart of this whole scene was a band called Mayhem.
Man, this band's history is just a super fast spiral into tragedy. After they formed, they worked really hard to create this image of total darkness and chaos. But in 1991, that image became horrifyingly real. Their vocalist, who went by the name Dead, committed suicide. But believe it or not, it's what happened after that. That's what truly dragged this band from just a dark performance into actual real-life horror.
So get this. Instead of calling for help right away, the band's leader, a guy named Euronymous, actually rearranged the scene, went out to buy a disposable camera, and started taking pictures. I mean, in a move that's just pure shock value, he later used one of those awful photos as the cover for a bootleg album. That line between performance and reality, it was just completely gone.
And the horror, it did not stop there. After the singer's death, things got really tense between Euronymous and a new bassist, Varg and Euronymous. You gotta understand, these two were serious rivals, each one trying to outdo the other, to be the most extreme guy on the scene. So when Varg heard a rumor that Euronymous was planning to torture and kill him, he drove straight to Euronymous' apartment to confront him. And that confrontation, it turned violent, and it ended with Varg stabbing Euronymous to death.
Now, at his trial, Varg claimed it was all self-defense. He said Euronymous attacked him first, but the court, they just weren't buying it, especially when they saw the sheer number of stab wounds. He ended up getting 21 years in prison, which was the maximum sentence you could get in Norway back then. And that one brutally real crime, it pretty much sealed black metal's infamous legacy forever.
Okay, let's do a complete 180. We're shifting gears from the underground scene to the absolute mainstream of pop culture. But you'll see the accusations here are just as dark. So this right here, this is the heart of a pretty explosive claim made in a series of tweets by none other than rapper Nicki Minaj. And look, she wasn't going after some small-time artist. No, she was pointing the finger directly at industry titans. We're talking Jay-Z and Beyoncé. And the allegation? That they're part of a secret cult that demands human sacrifices to stay in power. I mean, wow.
Her tweets really tried to lay out this pattern of, disturbing behavior. She brought up Jay-Z's history of relationships with really young women. And she also pointed to his supposed connections to the occult, like a time he was photographed wearing a hoodie with a quote from the infamous occultist Aleister Crowley. These weren't just vague accusations, They were specific. They were designed to get a massive public reaction.
So why bring all this up now? Well, the timing here is absolutely key. See, Minaj's very public tweets happened to drop right around the same time that some court files were released where Jay-Z's name came up in a totally different context. And that timing has led to 2 completely different theories about what was really going on.
So what was it? Was this a genuine accusation or a strategic distraction? On the one hand, you've got a personal motive. Minaj claimed that Jay-Z's company basically sabotaged her documentary, which would give her a pretty clear reason to want revenge. But on the other hand, the timing was, let's just say, incredibly convenient. Her wild claims instantly changed the public conversation, moving it away from those court documents and putting the spotlight squarely on a celebrity feud. What's the real story? That's still up for some pretty intense debate.
All right, for our last story, we're leaving the world of tabloids and courtrooms behind. Instead, we're going to look at a mystery that played out quietly and super creepily on a kids' TV channel.
So back in the 2000s in Mexico, a channel called Canal 5 used to air these little public service announcements for missing people, right in between their kids' shows. But there was one case that just stood out. It was for an 18-year-old named Selena Delgado Lopez. See, the other reports had different photos, lots of details, but Selena's case, it always used the exact same really eerie photo and gave you nothing more than her name, age, and city.
And this is where the story gets really, really strange. People who were watching back then almost all report the exact same bizarre thing happening. Whenever Selena's unsettling photo popped up on the screen, the channel would just glitch out. The audio would get all distorted, the image would freeze up, and then, a lot of the time, the whole broadcast would just cut to black for a few seconds before coming back. Creepy, right?
So for years, people have been debating if she was even real. I mean, searches of official records have found absolutely nothing. So theory number one is that Canal 5 just made her up, like a modern boogeyman to scare kids into being more careful. But the other theory, which is maybe even more tragic, is that she was a real person whose case just got lost in the shuffle. This was a time with less organized records and a lot of disappearances in Mexico, which could have made her a true ghost in the machine.
So, what do we have? A real-life murder born out of a dark fantasy. A huge pop culture conspiracy that's either an incredibly brave accusation or a brilliant act of deception, and a phantom on our TV screens who may or may not have ever even existed. I think these stories really remind us that even in our super-connected world, there's always some static in the signal. Some truths, it seems, will always stay just out of reach. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.